Welcome, welcome. Thanks everyone for joining this very special episode of Broadcast to Post. I'm your host, Jeff Sangpil, Chief Technologist here at Keycode Media. Today, we will be discussing the design, programming, and technology used for AV and hybrid workspaces. Since the word is used for so many things, what do we mean by hybrid here? We're talking about some users on-prem in a particular space and other users joining from outside via a variety of methods and tools. The demand for these hybrid workspaces is exploding as people navigate meeting in person with the modern technology of today that allows meeting attendees to participate virtually anywhere from the safety and comfort of their homes. I'll be joined shortly by some of the top AV engineers today to address the state of AV systems in 2021, and they're going to share real stories and real examples of how businesses, schools, and governments are all addressing the challenges faced by their staffs. The folks on our panel spend every day solving these challenges, so we're well equipped to talk about it. We're going to address hot AV technology topics like upgrading business conference rooms to hybrid meeting spaces, constructing classrooms that work best for students and facilities, and basic city government setups that allow communities to connect and be informed. Before we get too far this fine Thursday morning, why is Keycode Media spending time talking AV knowledge with you today? Well, Keycode Media has been the preferred U.S. reseller and integrator for the AV, broadcast, and post-production industry for 20 years. Our engineering team is experienced in helping companies design, install, upgrade, and maintain the technology necessary to operate a well-oiled machine. AV solutions that just work, either on-prem or on campus, but also in the cloud and with hybrid methods as well. Before we get started, we want to give a shout out to a few of our AV partners: Crestron, Extron, Legrand, Blackmagic Design, Crimson AV, Sennheiser, Planar, Panasonic, and Shure. Keycode Media is the go-to resource for all of these solutions, and we have certified engineers that can design, install, and support them. All right, let's get to it. All right, now let's introduce the panel for our exciting topic, AV Hybrid Workspaces in 2021. In alphabetical order, Akmal Bastoris is the VP of AV and Project Integration for Keycode Media. His certifications include PE, C7, and C10 contractor licenses. With over 20 years of experience in electrical engineering, Akmal has worked in many low-voltage systems and projects, which include design and build. Among those are projects for audiovisual systems, cabling infrastructure, and other low-voltage systems such as security, fire, and PA. Akmal was essential to new builds and renovations for KCRW, the cities of Costa Mesa and Santa Monica, as well as Santa Monica College, UC Davis, and Telepictures. Crystal Velasco is a project engineer with 19 years of unique camera and switched city council experience, as well as a knowledge of both SDI and IP signal flow. Most recently, Crystal was the lead engineer on the City of Burbank Council Chamber and Control Room upgrade, as well as upgrading AV in 20 classrooms at Cal State Bakersfield. Dan Kirloff is also a project engineer and comes from a background in audio. Dan has 5 years of engineering experience in AV and broadcast environments. He's worked on a variety of systems ranging from small conference rooms to full broadcast facilities, and is well-versed in systems integration from initial design and install to end-user training and commissioning. All right, everybody. If you've got questions, please get them into the Vimeo chat window on our embedded webpage or into Facebook Live and YouTube. So let's start out. The event is called AV Hybrid Workspaces. Obviously, the concept sounds simple. We need to create audiovisual meeting spaces that people can collaborate in either from an office or anywhere with an internet connection. So what are hybrid workspace solutions? Are we just talking about software tools like Zoom and Teams, or is there more to it? Why do businesses need to think about these hybrid workspaces? How does the physical room need to be set up versus the remote side? Akmal, let's start with you on that.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. So I think it's a very good topic right now, and one of the hottest topics to talk about the hybrid workplace. So Before pandemic, I don't think anyone heard about hybrid workspace because it was mainly some video conferencing for some companies that they can communicate either nationally, internationally, but it was mainly for like 10% of the time for executive, for some employee, like they are remote because of the nature of the company. But uh, the hybrid world, we start to hear it since the pandemic hits everywhere in the world because it impacts the business and impact even the learning, the education. It impacts even every space in the world that you cannot be in the same space with many people. So mainly hybrid from the experience that we talk about it with people means that if we need to have people to connect remotely and also physical in the space, that is come the hybrid because right now you mainly needs like seamless communications and also very productive and efficient communication between remote and whoever physically in the space. Actually, the pandemic made the digital transformation that happened to the work place to be moved instead of going through years. Now it changed very hard in just the last few months because everyone like to work with client, work with the spaces, what's needed for businesses, what's needed for education. So actually, it's mainly a revolution right now for this digital workplace transformation.
A
So
lot of things did get accelerated over the pandemic that we didn't expect.
exactly. So right, because actually everyone likes to work, and this pandemic takes more time. So everyone, instead of never think about this one, never believes in like hybrid workplace and how these people can work efficiently. They found out that this is the only way that we have to work. And from that point, we started as AV company and other AV companies or technology in general to talk with clients. So what you need to make this hybrid workspace work for your needs. And from that point, we find the challenges day by day because actually you combine the challenges between different clients or different uh, kind of people like education companies enterprising. So one of the biggest challenges that uh, we see that client has how you make all of your people, all of your employee just to focus and seamlessly communicate together even if they are not in the same room. And this one uh, has the issue was not to having a very good audio that everyone has to hear everyone in the same time. That's one of the challenges that usually we uh, get from the clients, that we need everyone to be heard in the same time and heard very clearly because sometimes you have brainstorming sessions, sometimes you have executive and financial sessions. So audio is one of the main challenges that we see in getting this hybrid workspace on um, the level that the client needs or what is this. Also, by the time that this hybrid workplace started, more challenges was started also because even in the physical workplace, if you have some people, you need to have mainly touchless meetings. So you need to have people have a social distancing. They should not touch too much as you can, because that's it's going to be the nature of the physical workplace. And from there also, technology moved to how we can handle this physical workplace to manage the needs, plus also to be comply with whatever COVID-19 or CDC compliance to have people in the same workplace. And
Very cool.
from that point, just they move to have, like, for example, the motion sensors that you can turn on the room just without anybody to touch anything. We just go to the wireless presentation, so you don't have to have anyone to touch any touch panel or anything. Also, it's increased the needs that you can have like scheduling panels that everyone knows if this one is booked and when, especially you don't have a full utilization of the room. Like the room is just utilized based on how many people to be inside. So it was either for physical, you need a lot of technology changes, and also you need a lot of technology changes to make both people who are remote or physically just connect very seamless. And I think that we are right now in a good technology that can enable everyone to be communicate and be in the same page.
Awesome. Dan, Crystal, any thoughts on hybrid workspaces that we were just getting into?
Well, I know that one thing that really brought us out of pandemic is the ability to still be able to function and communicate. And definitely hybrid has been instrumental to be able to let the workplace continue to function, let the school to be able to still conduct their classes. And definitely it's something that, almost at the right time, we're able to utilize all these technologies to be able to continue working and as close to normal as possible.
Awesome. Any thoughts on that, Dan? Or we're going to go to the next question.
Next question.
Awesome. So customer examples, it sounds like most of these solutions aren't exactly plug and play. Can you give me an example of the type of customer setups that you're seeing out there, the challenges that customers are facing when they're transitioning to new systems, and what kind of qualifying questions are customers needing to answer before they start looking into options? Dan, let's start with you on that.
Sure. The vast majority of setups I'm encountering in terms of hybrid are for city and local government. And these are spaces that already have an established AV environment. And more than that, they already have an established operating protocol. So kind of the main demand from these clients is not only should they be able to function as they did before, where everyone meets on the council in person, but also that their workflow be minimally affected by the integration of these hybrid systems, which in itself is twofold, because they have the clerks, for example, running the session front of house, and then they have the engineers running broadcast back of house because city councils have to broadcast out. So the main thing for folding that in, at least for me, has been is a kind of simplicity of design and simplicity of functionality. So fewer moving parts usually means fewer changes for clients to adapt to in their workflow, and it tends to muddy the waters less for when they have to operate non-hybrid systems, which does still happen on occasion. So for these environments, the biggest ask from clients is to to minimally impair that. And then for qualifying questions, it tends to be on my end, what is their usual workflow front and back of house? And for hybrid, for example, bandwidth functionality, when you talk to city government integrating hybrid, IT department usually doesn't get asked, or those are not really thoughts that kind of enter into people's heads when you're discussing these kinds of things.
Understandable. I mean, and the other thing is those curveballs that come at you. The town that Crystal and I live in, they planned for in person, and then suddenly one of the members had to be, attending from home. So it's that curveball, being able to deal with that. Crystal Lockball, any thoughts on that question there?
Yeah, I think I like to add some of the technologies that right now that's helping all the client to just manage this hybrid workspace or workplace that we have right now everywhere. So I can see like also besides like video and besides like audio and everything, one of the things is that it has become very essential to most of the workplace as a technology-wise is the digital whiteboard, because one of the hardest things that people was facing in this hybrid workplace is how to brainstorm with people that they are not in the same room, which is usually like is a hard thing, even if you do it, even when you're in the same room, to have eye contact with people for brainstorming and get ideas. So the digital whiteboarding right now and how you can focus this one in the whole screen also was one of the technologies that is developed and also was very, very essential tool for people that they can use from anywhere, anytime, that you can have many people to be brainstorm like they are sitting inside the same room. Um,
That also sounds like it would be a very important piece for higher education, Akmal. Have we installed any digital whiteboard setups for higher ed?
yeah, we have many of these digital whiteboard, which is already was starting from before pandemic because people was trying to go with digital, but after the pandemic, they find out that this is not something that just like to go with technology needs or technology development, but this is essential for them because after the professor or after whoever the presenter finished the whiteboarding, he is in one click just to save it as a PDF and send it to everyone. And was something very important for them because especially the people is not in the same area, so they can have some picture for this whiteboard or stuff like what we had before. So uh, it was essential for everyone. That's why you can see what's happened in the last year and how this product is developed. And all of the companies, all of the vendors try to get a lot of tools, even inside every display that can help all of the people from education, from, as I'm saying, meeting rooms, conference rooms. So it's really a revolution in all technology at this moment for the Bibles.
So I think one of the other things that might be interesting there is document capture. That's definitely something for local governments and businesses in conference rooms with a good chunk of the folks out of the office not able to be there. Have we installed any kind of document scanning systems or capture systems for folks?
Yeah, actually, right now also was one of this revolution. What's coming in the last 2 or 3 years is a lot of visualizer, which is mainly a document camera, but it can be on the ceiling. You don't have to have it on the disk. You can have it in the ceiling, and you can have any document or any drawing if you're already in like engineering facility or you're already in a city council and you need to show the people something on paper. You can just put this paper on the desk, but you already have this visualizer in the ceiling, so you don't care about getting a space for it because it's already in the ceiling, something like projector, but just heading down that can be uh, same like what when you have a document camera, but with very high end like lens and everything that you can have a clear picture for the people. Yes. So the answer is yes, that this technology also is one of the technologies that people try to make it better and better that can be used for more and clear presentation for either a student or for audience.
Awesome. Crystal, what things have you been installing lately for clients?
Well, past project, we were working with a Cal State school to be able to set up some hybrid classrooms. They were seeing very low attendance or low enrollment, and the need to be able to continue to provide classes for students who aren't comfortable coming back yet. One of the classroom basically is equipped with a camera, a microphone, and a computer, and the ability to be able to have the faculty bring in their own devices so that they can either host or present from their devices, not only in the classroom, but also for the far end, for the students that are attending. As far as technology, we gave them the ability to be able to bring in a document camera. And that was one of the things that we had to have a discussion on how to connect that. And one of the things that often end users will need to qualify versus with what technology you use, whether it's a Zoom or Teams or WebEx. Some of these platforms do not allow you to have multiple camera sources. So whenever you have a document camera involved in a situation, that requires not just a camera that is focused on you, but also an option to be able to bring in another camera to focus on the document that you want to get across to your participants. So those are considerations that client tends to sometimes forget, and it forces them to go, okay, well, we might not want to use Teams or WebEx for this, and Zoom really does well with having multiple sources. So those are the kind of things that we've seen, and we've helped clients. Sometimes we have to help the client kind of understand what the issue is so that they can make a better decision of what direction they want to go to with their technology.
Awesome. And I know we're going to be, our next AV event, I think next month, is going to be focused on those classrooms of the future. I look for that invite tonight. So let's get into unified communications and collaboration. Some call that UC communications. What are the different types of technologies in UC communications that are currently used with a very good rate of success in these hybrid workspaces? We know Crestron Flex solutions are out there, Google Rooms, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom, Logitech meeting kits, custom bring your own device solutions. Some of these are controlling single rooms, others are controlling an entire college campus. Let's get into that. Crystal, we'll start with you on that.
Right. So definitely there's, in the past years, there's been a boom of technology, right? A lot of manufacturers are coming up offering all these little kits. And it could be one of those throwdown kits where you just need a small room just to teleconference into a remote office. And those are, your Logitech kits, your Google Meet rooms. Or it could be a whole boardroom that you want to be able to have the ability to reach out to the other remote offices internationally or nationally. And it just depends on the need. A lot of the throwdown kits are very simple to install. There's a little bit of work with networking just to make sure that ports are open to the communications. But those can get up and running fairly quickly, and we see a lot of those. Crestron has their Mercury kits with the bring your own device capability. So these are complete kits with audio and the ability to be able to present to the local display, and even comes with a camera. So you can literally just set it up on the table, be up and running within hours to start a conference meeting from with a remote office. Logitech has similar devices that are being used. And from that need of I just need to be up and running right away to maybe like a whole boardroom full of executives that needs to make sure that they're able to do A, B, and C, like present from a laptop wirelessly, or even be able to have the ability to host in any kind of flavor of teleconferencing technology. We're able to set those up for you based on your needs. And of course, as more options are required, there's complexity involved in there where we start to get involved with custom programming. And usually the need for the custom programming is to be able to provide the ease of use for the end user, so that there's not a lot of complications of having to find the remote of a certain television or a player just to be able to present a video to a room or to the far end.
Yeah, and the thing there, the complex systems that need to be made simple. I started my career last century doing AV for a large bank in downtown Chicago, and one of the things that I would do was walk into a conference room after someone had called and said that things didn't work, and just press the button and walk out of the room, and everything would just start working. It was amazing to see. Dan, what are you seeing in some of these solutions with UC and the kits that we're needing to put out there for folks?
So from my end, I've done a few of the Logitech kits, which are fairly simple to do. We've had to do quite a few fairly complicated custom setups, like Crystal was talking about. And one of the tools that has been very successful on our end for that has been Dante audio protocol over network. It helps with the simplicity on the client end, because there's sort of one cable that goes in, you have your audio come in on that, as well as your network connection out for Zoom. And then it's also helpful for example, we have meeting rooms that you can have 4 separate ones or combine them into whatever configuration you want, and then you need to route the audio and video accordingly depending on the space. So with Dante, that's very simple to do, and then also added with the control systems, Crestron, Extron, what have you. It makes it very simple on the client side. Once again, they walk in, they push a button, it sends everything where it needs to go, and on the client side, they're all set.
Plus, the other fun thing is that bring your own device, where I come in and I set my device up, and then the room is turned on, and I just go in from my device. That, like Akmal was talking about. Akmal, any more thoughts on that for UC?
Yeah, maybe I can just add more more insight about one of the challenges also in the start days of this pandemic was like we used to have equipment like usually in racks. Like if you like to set up any conference room or anything, usually you have the rack mounted equipment. So you have to have like 19-inch equipment and whatever, how many are used. That was one of the challenge because right now, let's say you have a workspace as an office and you have some people working from home. You're not gonna set up rack in every home and just have this equipment just in this room, and it's gonna be very easy to take it out and just to move it from one space to the other. Which also uh, all the vendors work to make this unified communication tools to be all in one piece, which is like very portable. You can take it from one space to the other, and also they um, try to make it kids that there is no need for you when you go to any space that you have to connect a laptop. So what we have right now as the Flex kits or Logitech kits or all of the vendor kits that you have right now, it's usually come with UC Engine, which is mainly a PC in the end of the day, and it has everything ready to go. This is makes a lot of client impressed because he can go inside the room and in 1 minute he can have this meeting on because he's just gonna press one join meeting or just gonna have a meeting already set up, but he doesn't have to have laptop or desktop or anything because so mainly they did the video conferencing and collaboration in just one piece of equipment, and is also portable that you can move it easily if you have people at home. You like to add it there, you like to add it for some schools, some of the teachers at home to do at home. So it's really make it easy now to just make it very easy for everyone to have this equipment anywhere and move it between people if needed. So this is one of the things that the unified communication that kits that we see these days are very, very usable and it's very on demand. And that's why right now you can see how there is some lead time and everything because demand is really, really, as everyone knows, is very, very.
Yep, and the other thing that does is it helps remove people from the room. I toured a facility in the south suburbs of Chicago last week or last month, and they had a lot of conference room setups that they weren't using because of pandemic, but they had entire desks about the size of the one I'm sitting at with command consoles, and we're looking at a technology refresh for them, and making that easier is going to be also a big piece of getting other folks out of the room that don't necessarily need to be sitting there. Let's get into budget and needs analysis. So we're going to talk about the level of functionality you're getting based upon the amount of money you got to spend. So what are some of the quick and dirty setups we're seeing out there, and what are the advantages you're seeing to the higher end hybrid workflows? Some of you attending out there probably have a general sense of what your budget would be and their timeline would be for upgrading, specific conference rooms or classrooms or in some cases city council chambers. What are we recommending customers do on the front end of the project to make sure that the entire AV project and the upgrade is going to be a success? Akmal, let's start with you on that.
Okay, thank you, Chef. So actually, this is a very good point to bring up to the table here. And I think it's just going to take us a little bit of time that we have to get this answer from client upfront because he knows what he needs, but sometimes he doesn't know which question we need to ask him to answer. So we usually ask the client some question like, what you really need this hybrid workspace to be used for? Do you like to have integration with your phone, with like VoIP phone to do it in the same way, like what you have? Do you like to have controlling of some of your existing AV workflow in this area? So it depends on the the questions that you ask the client upfront. You get this answer that we can direct the client, telling him, okay, so if you need to have just very small technology just for this room to just very direct and very budget conservative, yeah, you can have one of these kits just enable you to do some calls and conference calls and just collaboration meeting very easy. And this is usually in the budget that 10 to 15K or around that. So this is just for simple rooms, and it can be also vary between the room size because there is different kits, like different cameras, different kits. There is some other clients they have some request and recommendation for, oh, I need to have voice tracking. So instead of you have just the camera have a wide shot for people, they like to have the voice tracking and camera move to one person or the zone who's person talking. So to give the people inside the meeting remotely that they are in the same meeting and not just a wide shot aesthetic just on people. Um, Also, there is some people recommended to have more audio amplification inside the room because most of the kits we use from the UCC communication stuff is coming already with some speaker and microphone. So you maybe don't need, but some people saying, okay, based on the acoustic of this room, I need to have some kind of like ceiling microphone, whatever, Shure or Sennheiser, all of this great stuff. And we can have DSPs that we can control the channels and the audio coming, and we can just make like suppress all noises around that can come from acoustic. And we did one of the big banks here in the United States for many rooms that we already have some acoustic challenge that it's already fixed with this DSP configuration, everything. And even in our conference rooms in our offices also that we have glass everywhere around, and all of that was fixed using this DSP and stuff. So all of that affects the budget, but once we ask the client what he needs, and also from our knowledge tell him what this question mean for him, like if we add for you this one, what this is going to mean for you, he can decide, oh, I have budget to do this one, so it can go to 40K to 50K, because in that case it's not really just a conference room, but it's mainly his real estate now that he can use for business. So he is building this one that this is used 24/7. And I think right now, most of the CEOs and most of the people in the business, they know that the next days, the hybrid gonna continue even after the pandemic goes, because before they don't believe in it. Like right now, a lot of business believe that this one was more efficient. It saves them a lot of money for real estate because a lot of them now shrinking the real estate space or square footage they have, because they find out that they can do that remotely 100%, especially with the technology revolution we have now. Also, a lot of them now find that they can have a diversity of employee all over the world. So they can get whoever he needs with the cost he needs, and this is also make everything easier in his business. So I think that hybrid word was not there 2 years ago, but hybrid gonna continue forever as a business. And I'm not sure if we're gonna have many of the businesses as a physical space in the future, or it's gonna be very minimum.
Yeah, that's going to get into real estate questions which are our business challenges as we go forward. I know one of the interesting things we ran into in our own conference room was we had these little pucks that sat on the table that were microphones and speakers. And it used to be that during company meetings, people would say, I can't hear what that person is saying. And we swapped that out for a ceiling mounted microphone that's steerable, it's a Sennheiser. And I haven't heard one person complain about being able to hear details in that room at all now. So a lot of times those needs end up being, what are your pain points? Dan, are you seeing any of that stuff out there, or Crystal?
Oh, absolutely. That's actually the Sennheiser mics and the Shure mics are one of the most prevalent things that we've been putting in for those very reasons. And it helps, kind of regardless of the space. If you have a small meeting room, you can use it. If you have larger scale operations, those still integrate well into those systems. And like you said, they're very flexible. They kind of steer themselves. Whoever's talking, they pick it up. And it's, like I said, it scales from kind of the smallest to the largest. So that's been a very useful tool through all of this for us.
Yeah, actually, we see that as well in the classroom. One of the microphones that are right now in use are the MXA 710, and basically, this microphone gives us the ability, when oriented properly in the classroom, to be able to have half of the microphones just focus on the instructor. And if the instructor has any kind of discussion with the classroom, we're able to program in and enable both sides to be open. so that the far end feels that they're part of that classroom because they can hear the back and forth conversation between the student and the instructor. And I think it becomes a valuable tool to be able to not miss that kind of pluses that you have when you're in person versus remote. Yeah, it gives you kind of closer to how it was when you're in class. So those are really good tools to have.
Awesome. So getting into questions that have been coming in. If you got questions, please put them into the various chats. Tim Marchueka is asking, what switchers are being recommended for city council meetings for hybrid solutions? Is the TC2 from NewTek the only option to bring in a Zoom room without adding in extra computers to host the Zoom room? And then Josh Reynolds had a follow-up question on that is there going to be a solution for TC1, NC1 users, such as an upgrade for those devices?
So I've put in a fair share of TriCasters in city government. They are, I don't know about the only option, but I've found them currently to be the most versatile option. For example, you can take the cameras in the room and feed them out into, if you have, let's say, a dedicated Zoom machine like some city councils do right now, you can run that direct into that. The TriCaster also supports NDI, so you can send the output from the Zoom computer out over NDI over network. It also supports Dante protocol. So for example, if you need people in the room to go pretty much wherever you need, you can do that just over Dante direct into the TriCaster, direct into the Zoom machine, however you need to do it. So I found those to be kind of the most useful through the current changes that we're experiencing.
And the easiest to use too. So you got a marketing guy and a post-production guy, and this entire webinar is running off of Zoom with a TriCaster too. So we're able to quickly set things up, and there's a nice Sony camera over here, but the computer sitting right here in front of me is a Zoom computer, and it all goes through the TriCaster, which then allows us to stream out. So yeah, the NewTek's got a very, very nice flexible device. Any thoughts on anybody have any idea on an upgrade path for TC1 users, or will we have to just address that later in the chat?
I'm not sure. I know that it supports still, in my experience, it still supports Dante and those protocols. In terms of an upgrade, unfortunately, I don't know.
Understandable. Dayton came up with a question he's basically asking if anyone out there is using QSC systems, or is everything Dante or SDVOE? Crystal, you want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, I've seen some. QSC is a good option for your DSPs. We also use BIAMP, and really both manufacturers have really good processing power. A lot of and you need these kind of devices in your teleconferencing systems because they provide AEC, echo cancellation, and those are the kind of things that will allow your participants to focus in on what you're saying if you're on the presenter side. One of the things that echo cancellation does is it doesn't give you that, that echo back that you're hearing yourself when you're talking, or you're hearing a doubling of the voice. And that can get really distracting in any kind of meeting environment, whether it's conference rooms or classrooms or city government. So those processing that is available on the QSC and the BIAMPs, those are very useful for these kind of systems.
Awesome. And having done a lot of presentations and a lot of meetings, the worst thing I ever want to hear is my own voice coming back, a second or two later. I can't continue to talk that way. It just drives everybody nuts. And I'm used to weird sorts of things in the business. So let's see. Getting on. Dayton has a follow-up question. What about NDI versus Dante AV?
So in my experience, we kind of use them, that they're sort of split functions. You can carry audio over NDI, at least for my purposes, it's more about routability for the audio. So to be able to have them separate makes it much more versatile, and I've had a better experience doing it that way. So you can use one or another depending on needs effectively, but for most of the stuff that I've been doing, it's been good to kind of keep those two signal flows separate.
And that also gets into a discussion about how the networking functions behind that. Dante and NDI are very robust protocols. So making sure your network is able to handle multiple levels of robust protocols will be interesting. The other thing on the NDI side, and some of the older NDI devices are running NDI 4 or before, take a look at our recent webinar on NDI 5 and how some of the audio functions have changed there. It may help you inform some of your future decisions. Any other thoughts on NDI versus Dante? Crystal, I know you're our audio guru in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely what Dan had mentioned already. Sometimes it needs advanced network setup where you might have to VLAN these devices so that they're able to take advantage of the bandwidth requirements they have. And yeah, it's consulting with a network specialist is a good thing to do. As far as Dante AV, it's fairly new. I know that they have supported codecs for video, but I haven't had a lot of experience with them yet, so it's hard for me to really comment on their functionality with audio and video for that exact protocol.
Understandable. So we got a question from Josh Reynolds. Many clients with older systems, Mini SDI and TC460, these are new tech models. Any workarounds for these older models? Also, there needs to be an understanding that some of these models have already end of life from new tech. Any thoughts on those, folks, or do we want to? We can kick that out to our friends at New Tech and get an answer back to Josh. Okay, that's what we'll do on that. Going forward, from Dayton, he says, thank you very much. I understand that the AEC echo cancellation requirements, but some vendors are using Allen and Heath gear with built-in AEC. Are we seeing that out there?
Yeah, and I mean, AEC is actually also built in on all of these platforms for video conferencing like Zoom and Teams. They usually do the echo cancellation for the remote. But because right now, if I understand the question correctly, so right now we have some like ceiling microphones has already the AEC that can do this AEC, but it's not in the same levels that you can have it when you have DSP, especially for the rooms that we have sound amplification. Because what's happening is, let's say you have a big classroom, which we have this one in CSUB project and some of the project. If this room is big room and you have multiple speaker, let's say you have 25 speaker or so you have zones and you need everyone to hear good and quality audio. And also in this time, you have a far end people that who has the same input audio coming through the ceiling microphone. So echo cancellation here is not the only thing that you're gonna need, or not only the built-in, because you need to do a lot of things of mix minuses and stuff, because you need to set up every zone to have its own audio, to have some audio that has to be like out of this, like not only the echo, but just a lot of things around. So yes, there's some equipment coming right now has their own echo cancellation, and also some platform. All the platform mostly have this echo cancellation for far end, but it's not in the same levels that you need for some specific workplace or rooms.
Awesome. So question from Pat. What types of projectors are you installing in small, medium, and large conference room spaces? What do people need to think about when installing projectors? I would think that also could make sense for house of worship, size of various rooms that they're using. Akmal, do you want to take a stab at that one for projectors?
Yeah, so actually right now, I think we should think about the laser projectors as everyone likes to use this one, or the shortest row ones also depend on the use for the area and how big the area is. So, I mean, all what you need to know is how big your space, how big the projector screen you need, that you can just decide which projector gonna be fit for this um, square footage of your projector screens, and also where we're gonna put this projector. As I'm saying, is either shortest row projector or either the projector that we can decide which projector can fit for you. If we need to have a lens for this projector to have this distance work with you, and also if you needed 16:9, if you needed 16:10. So this is all considerations that we usually ask the client about what needs for this projector for this place, this working
And,
place.
and the interesting thing there is a lot of these same questions are the same questions I ask when we're installing projectors for color correction theaters. What's the throw? How big does the image need to be? What's the size of the screen? And what is the ambient brightness? And that's a very interesting question to know. Sometimes you need to have a brighter projector because people need to be able to see what they're doing. It's not like you're sitting in a theater when you're in a conference room where everything is dark and it's just perfectly projected. So lots of interesting manufacturers out there, all the biggies, and getting up into the Christies and the Barcos and the big Sonys that are out there for the giant spaces. Crystal, Dan, any thoughts on projection?
I mean, like Akmal said, it kind of just depends on the space. I mean, in terms of manufacturers for smaller stuff, the Optima is a good one that we've had success with. But the big point that he touched on is, in my opinion, the laser projectors, because one, it's less maintenance for clients, less noise, which for current, once again, hybrid environments, you don't need the fan going in the background the whole time. And there's a lot of versatility. We put in, for example, an reverse throw projector where the image comes from behind the screen, but it's very close, so the projector is not even visible when the screen's down. So it kind of just depends on what the necessities are of the client and what the space will allow.
Understandable. We got a question that came in from Pippa. I understand you said TC2 is the most versatile for not using a computer for virtual meeting platforms, but what are the other options? And does that mean that the quality is better when broadcasting a Zoom room as a source versus from a computer?
For other options, I know Ross, for example, now has support for NDI protocol, as well as Dante. They've always supported Maddie, which is another version of audio in broadcast environment. Those are kind of the two that we've seen most prevalently through all of this, and I think those are both very, very good options.
The other interesting thing out there is, since you're still using Zoom, you still have the limitations of your own network connectivity. This is a challenge we've run into sometimes, even with our own webinars, where the Zoom connection drops down a bit, and that causes some loss of quality. Image gets a little fuzzy. So while there's a number of solutions out there, if you are still using Zoom as your platform to get out there, or if you're using Teams or Google, any of the conferencing apps, there is still the connection to the app and how it distributes to all of the other users that needs to be taken into consideration. I can feed a 4K signal into the TriCaster and then get that into a Zoom, but once it hits the Zoom, it's going to knock it down to 1080. And if it's doing a lot of processing to do that, the fan in my computer is going to take off to get there. And this is why I'm using a different computer for these last few things, if you've been a regular watcher of our broadcasts, because we end up with technical questions and technical issues that are related to the platform for UC that aren't always in our control. We'd love them to be, but they're just not. The other thing you can run into is network congestion. So my particular internet provider could be having an issue today, and that's going to give you some interesting things there. But there are definitely all sorts of different ways to get video into an NDI source and then into one of these solutions. We use BirdDog for quite a few things. NewTek has their Sparks. So being able to take a video or an SDI or an HDMI video source and convert that into NDI to then get into a unified communications platform, there's a number of options out there. And you can have an entire video infrastructure ahead of that, and you're then at the end converting and going into an NDI platform for UC. There's all sorts of things out there that if you want to discuss, please get a hold of us here at KeyCode, and we can walk you through what some of those choices are, and how you can leverage your existing infrastructure. Customer furnished equipment is a big part of a lot of things that we end up running into, and folks, they got gear that isn't exactly broken, so why would you go to replace it? Let's see, Mark is asking, in what cases do I need a Zoom Room license versus a traditional Zoom license? What's the best way to manage the costs from creeping up on me?
Well, a Zoom Room license is practical when, for example, for clients that we've dealt with, they have branch offices throughout the nation. So if a Zoom, they would usually assign a Zoom room for a conference room because it's a constant that any executives in the office can just walk into and start a meeting with. And definitely there are costs to that. You're having to maintain that license either monthly or yearly. But it bases on your needs as far as if you're a small business that doesn't necessarily need to have a dedicated room, maybe the regular Zoom application is just right for you. And those are the kind of things that you weigh in, and definitely we can help you walk through that and see the cost analysis to be able to determine, okay, do you need to be invested in a Zoom Room license or a Teams license, or am I okay to run the regular applications? I'd be more than happy to walk you through that.
It's a big advantage of this one, or why people using this license usually, is because you have a dedicated room. You don't have to have linked differently every time. So that's mainly a dedicated room virtually. So anyone go to this link is going to your room. That's mainly the main difference between using your own Zoom room or meeting room, or just using the regular account that you can every time send different link to different meeting. So this is mainly used for, as Crystal mentioned here, is for different branches for a company. If you like to have your dedicated room all the time virtually, so anyone can connect from the same link you have.
Awesome. So we have a question from Matt Smith, and this is actually really, really important these days. We're seeing lots of delays in equipment delivery. What types of products are you seeing that are actually delayed more than others, and what can people do to get equipment quicker? I have lots of thoughts on this subject because we talked about it in a post-production environment last week, and some of the same things apply. Anyone want to jump on that one?
I mean, right now, it looks like the lead time is within the same of 3 months to 4 months for everything. But the good news is we see a lot of alternative recently that can be used instead of just all of these popular vendors. And we see this one for touch screens, for control, for some, like there is a lot of manufacturer and vendors that they were not used before, but we found out recently that they are very good quality, but because they were not that brand name that you have it as other brand names that you're looking for. And most of these guys have some availability at this moment. So that's actually, they're sending us as a reseller saying, oh, we have availability of this, we have availability of that. And also they're offering like more years of warranty. Like some of them give you 3 years, some of them give 5 years, because they know that they are not the very famous brands that you use. But I think that's right now, because as I see right now, one of the vendors we know, like Jupiter, for example, they have a lot of these 105-inch screens. They're saying that they have it on stock. And on the other hand, some other manufacturer, I'm not gonna just say exactly, because everywhere they have lead time for 2 or 3 months. So right now, I think looking at alternative, trying to get some trusted vendors other than the famous brand is going to be good solution for some client.
Exactly. And the other thing is, because we're dealing with this day in and day out, we know what's ended up being delayed. Like we're seeing, certain manufacturers of certain types of equipment, switches on the network side, certain displays on this side, where we know that they're in one of the 100 boats that are possibly moored a little bit west of here right now. Or they're just not able to get into containers to get over here. So one of the questions we end up having with some of our distributors and some of the vendors who are out there is, do you have product in a warehouse, on the continent of the Americas? And, we know who we've been dealing with and who we can get product from quickly, so we can, come up and say, hey, yes, this is what was originally spec'd, but if we want to make your deadline, let's have a chat about alternatives at this point, because your deadline may be more important than, the budget going up a little bit or speccing in something that's a little bit different. Let's see what else we've got there. Mike S. Can a Cisco system, telepresence, about 5 years old, run a Zoom meeting or receive a Zoom call?
He's talking about Cisco WebEx.
Cisco telepresence system, and I think those are some of the in-room systems that they've had out for a while.
Oh, I'm not familiar with the old one from Cisco, but maybe one of our colleagues here is familiar with.
Any thoughts, guys? Or are we going to have to do a little research and get back to them? So, I mean, Mike, please reach out to us, give us a call, and then we can get some information out to you after we do a little bit of research. All righty. So, I think I've only got one question left here. Are there any new unique workflows that people are seeing because of Zoom and Teams? And this question is from Kim. Any recent features that are getting more adopted more quickly than others? I mean, from my perspective, because I've seen some of the admin tools around Microsoft Teams, is they have the ability to stream out to NDI. So that can become an NDI source that's available. So an entire Teams meeting can go directly out as NDI to anything that can catch NDI and then broadcast it. So that's one of the unique things I've seen there. NDI5's brought some interesting pieces to the puzzle. For me, definitely, that it's helped out on some of our connectivity between cameras and webcam inputs on devices. Anybody else seeing anything interesting out there that's developed?
And I guess specific to hybrid, I've been same thing like you said with NDI for city council. We can take all of the mics on a dais, send them all as one Dante feed either into the switcher or into a laptop if you just need to do that. We've been using that a lot. It's been very handy, and I don't think we've ever really needed to do that before hybrid environment came into play.
The other thing I've seen out there is both Teams and Zoom now have this together mode, which makes people look like they're in a conference room together. It's out there. I've turned it on a few times and immediately turned it off because I didn't like the results. But that's just pieces that our friends from Microsoft and Zoom are bringing to the table on those. I think we've run out of questions here. So Akmal, Dan, and Crystal, thanks for joining us here today. And thanks all of you in the audience for joining us. If you've got questions about AV solutions, if you need to talk to someone about an upcoming project, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Send us an email, drop us a line on the phone, or visit our website. and we can talk solutions with you. We've got a very deep bench of very skilled players that can help make your project a success. And also, you know, if you're looking at something for the end of the year, remember there's supply chain to think about. So talking now would be better than talking later, especially if you've got a deadline to meet. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and everyone have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.